Welcome back, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 4th for take two of this, and it
Didn't we
is
just do this?
still time to welcome you all to Curling HD.
Oh,
The
curling
Olympics are
HD.
on.
Wow.
Uh,
I
yes, we are here to discuss tonight's huge Switzerland versus Estonia game. Tomorrow we
I,
got Norway versus USA,
I
mixed
did not
doubles.
get the memo on the program change or the format change.
Oh, wait, am I on the wrong show?
Yeah.
Uh, this is Hoops HD. Okay,
Yeah.
Hoops HD. I'm your host, Chad Shore. We got David Griggs, Mike Cha, John Sleeka. We're here to discuss
Chad has quite the following in Estonia, apparently.
we got to do the Estonian curling. I mean, what else is
Yeah.
there? We're under the radar. Sleeka, we're on take two of this podcast because we screwed up round one with some new headphone problems for me. But why don't you tell us what under the radar is all about?
Well, this is what happens when you try to mix curling and basketball right here. But getting back to the two rules that we generally use as far as under the radar, these are the 22 legacy one bid conferences. So we don't include the Power Four, the Big East, the Atlantic 10, the Mountain West, or the West Coast Conference. We typically wouldn't include the American, but they've been relegated down this year. And the second rule is you cannot be a member of the top 25 in either the AP or the coaches poll. So Mother Miami, they will primarily be discussed in the Hoops HD report.
That is correct. First of all, hopefully you guys can hear me right now.
We can.
Second of all, apologize for these sound problems, but I'm going to be on my way to return a pair of garbage headphones tomorrow, I believe, that don't want to maintain their pairing.
Well, you should get yours from Dell like I did.
Yeah.
So let's, in that case, go ahead with the show here. And as far as the under the radar, what we like to do is start out with a feature conference every week. We normally pick that feature conference in about 3 seconds before we start the show. Today, there's been a lot of news in the conference that we've actually probably knew about this since yesterday, the day before, that we would be doing this conference. And we're also doing the conference for the last time ever. We're talking about the Western Athletic Conference. And as far as the WAC goes, it is its last year as ever. And there's, I guess, a lot of stories here of what's going on. Begin with the fact that it's only down to 7 teams this year. Throw in the fact that late the end of last season, both California Baptist and Utah Valley announced that they'd be leaving for the Big West, dropping the conference down to only 5 teams. The conference then cut a deal, Griggs, if I'm correct, with the ASUN to, in essence, merge with the ASUN conference, while at the same time saying it's only going to be our 3 Texas schools that are going to do that: Arlington, Abilene, Christian, and Tarleton. Utah Tech and Southern Utah were actually kind of forced out of the conference, got an invite from the Big Sky. That's where they'll be next year. And that was only a few weeks after Cal Baptist and Utah Valley announced that they were leaving. Now, after those 3 teams merged with the ASUN then split in 2, basically.
Yeah.
And we're going to have next year, we're going to have an ASUN conference, which is a good portion of what's in the ASUN right now, along with what's called the new United Conference, which is going to be these 3 Texas schools, plus the other half of the current ASUN conference.
Yeah.
Almost playing games with NCAA tournament bids, in my opinion, because it's going to be a single league office, single administration, 2 conferences. Did I get that right?
I believe that I believe so. So the United Athletic Conference, I think the original concept was that it would be a football only conference because none of the teams in the ASUN or the WAC played in a league that had enough football members for the auto bid. That morphed it from being a football only conference to a all sports conference. You might know a little more about that than I do, but I believe that is the origin of what happened. But in a nutshell, you hit the high points. The WAC is dissolving technically. A new United Athletic Conference, the UAC, is going to be formed with current WAC members and current ASUN members.
Right. And now, when California Baptist and Utah Valley announced that they were leaving, the WAC still existed, and the rules require them to have a $1 million buyout when they leave the conference, which California Baptist has paid. Utah Valley has taken the position that, hey, 3 weeks after we left, Utah Tech and Southern Utah were on their way out to the Big Sky because you guys agreed to dissolve. So why should we have to pay the $1 million buyout? The exit fee, I guess, would be $1 million
Yes.
exit fee. And they've refused to pay it. As a result, this week, the WAC has sued Utah Valley and has announced that Utah Valley is ineligible for any national TV appearances on WAC media packages, and even more importantly, for any conference championships, which means as we speak right now, Utah Valley is technically ineligible for the WAC tournament, and given that they've been eliminated from our survival board up there, ineligible for the NCAA tournament.
And I
Yes.
think one of the other things that's now come into play is now that they're ineligible for TB, other schools that are now going to be playing them for the remainder of the year have now suddenly been harmed. They've now suddenly lost TV appearances through no fault of their own, thanks to Utah Valley.
Stalika, in all honesty, what does the WAC have? About 5 TV appearances a year in conference
Yeah.
games. It's not. I don't see that as something that's huge. More so, I see the fact that this is a team that we've been rating as the best, one of the best teams in the WAC all season, and there's a
Yes.
chance they don't play in the conference tournament. Uh,
I feel the most badly for the players because it's not their
Oh,
fault.
I
It's the
do
player.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Mike on that, and so you feel badly for the players, and there's a lot of debate. Well, is the WAC being cruel, or I don't believe this is a conditional penalty, or I'm sorry, like I believe it's a conditional penalty. I don't believe it's just like a discretional penalty. They didn't decide this. They the thing is, they think Utah Valley should have to pay the money. Utah Valley isn't paying it, so they're disqualifying them from the tournament. All tournaments, baseball, softball, all remaining winter and spring championships, unless something is worked out. Now, I would like to think that something will be worked out. They are being sued. Surely Utah Valley has legal counsel, and I would think that the correct counsel, Chad's the lawyer, would be, look, contractually you're obligated to pay it. So you can either pay it and participate in these sports or not pay it, not participate, and then later be taken to court and be told you have to pay it.
yeah. Right now they are going to court. That lawsuit's already been filed. It was the WAC
Yeah.
filing against Utah Valley. Now, I think there's two things. First of all, the statement I've heard from the WAC already said we want to resolve this with them. That
Yes.
gives me a strong feeling that before we get to the WAC tournament, a resolution will be made. Maybe they reduce the money. Maybe they find some other way to get around this, but that they find a way to get Utah Valley into the WAC tournament, which is why we have not removed Utah Valley from our NCAA tournament survival board up there on the website.
Right.
And the suit was filed in Tarrant County, Texas, which would be Fort Worth, which is where I presume their current offices are located.
Yes.
I'll tell you the only other thing here is if I was Utah Valley's attorneys and we can't work out a settlement, quite frankly, I'd be counterclaiming and I'd be going in for an injunction to require them to let me play in the conference tournament, because if Utah Valley is right and they really should have to pay this money, what the WAC is doing would cause irrevocable harm to the Utah Valley's players by not letting them
Yeah.
play the tournament. And that is the
But you might want to
standard
make
for
sure
an
this is
injunction.
also make sure it's also an independent judge. Don't pull a Bediako where you have like one of your own boosters trying to slide this in.
The problem there is the case is already in Texas. I guess they could try to file a separate case in Utah as opposed to in Texas, but that's
Yeah.
we'll see how all that plays out.
I would like to think that this would get resolved. I think Utah Valley does owe the money. I understand their point of view of, well, how come the Texas school, or how come the Utah schools, the Beach High schools, didn't have to pay it? And the answer is, well, you guys leaving is what basically forced the conference to dissolve. Had you not left, it would have in theory been able to come together. So because of that, you owe us the money, and I just don't see any legal argument against that.
And those teams were kind of asked to leave. They were not invited to go with the other three teams to the new ASUN. That's why they
Right.
went to the Big Sky. So
Yeah.
all that said,
On
on
the
the
court.
court, putting those
Yeah.
issues aside, look at these standings also. We've got half a game Utah Tech half a game behind, a three-way tie between Baptist, Utah Valley, and Texas Arlington right now, and what's really become an exciting conference the rest of the way.
It has. There's never been. There's never. This is unique to the history of college basketball. A conference that's playing a triple round robin, and
Hmm.
with it being this close all the way through, with two what I think are really good teams, evenly good in Cal Baptist and Utah Valley. Cal Baptist, while tied, I think didn't they start off 0-3 or 1-3? I mean, they've really come on in the second round of the games. So I really
Six-game
like
winning
that.
streak here for
Yeah, a
Baptist.
six-game winning streak since starting off 0-3 and looking really good out of conference too. I thought they looked stronger, the strongest out of conference out of anybody in the WAC. But Utah Valley right with them, and it's just a really exciting race. And it's gonna just get even more compelling when they play each other a third, and then in the tournament a fourth time.
Now, the biggest result for California Baptist here was they won at Texas Arlington on Saturday. So they've already played 2 games at UTA. They will finally get a home game against the Mavericks in February. So had Arlington won this one, they would be in sole possession of first place, and California Baptist would have been in a third place tie with Utah Tech, or actually they'd be half a game below Utah Tech under that scenario.
Well, you don't have in tiebreakers. You don't have to worry about splits. Oh, they split 1-1. Who did the best against the top remaining team and go on down? Obviously, that's not going to happen here. So with only 6 opponents, like like Greg said, you play the other team 3 times.
Here's the upcoming schedule for the week in the conference, and with these all four of these teams so close, we're going to have good games almost every day. Even though we
Yeah,
only get 3 games every Thursdays and 3 games Saturdays, one team will always be off. Look at Arlington's week at Utah Tech, who's 6-4, at Utah Valley Saturday. That's the big. Those are 2 big games. If Arlington can somehow go 2-0, they
yeah,
may be seriously in contention for this conference title.
yeah. They really could be.
Uh,
And it's even the last place team has been competitive in their games.
Tarleton has been. Tarleton has been good. Abilene Christian has shown some signs of life. Southern Utah's found a way to win 4 games, and assuming all 7 teams are in the conference tournament, 2 of these teams are going to play in a 6 versus 7 play-in game type of game. So there's a semi-ladder format here. The top 2 will buy into the semifinals, 3, 4, and 5 to the quarters, and 6, 7 in a play-in game. So.
Okay.
But I think another quirk of the scheduling this week is all 3 of the Texas schools are going to be on the road.
Mhm. Let's jump back to the rest of the conferences, though. We try to run through the rest of them now that we spent so much time on the WAC. Alphabetically beginning the America East. Uh, Mike, this conference is a three-way tie now for first between UMBC, Vermont, and NJIT, especially off of NJIT's amazing
My
win at Vermont
God.
on Saturday.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, whoever comes out of this conference is definitely going to be a 16. I mean, you look at the standings, and they're all. Let's excuse me here. Um, nobody above 200 in the net. Just let me check the schedule here to see head to head.
Which team do you want? We can pull those schedules up.
Yeah.
Vermont.
Ver-
They have the best net rating.
Vermont does still have to go to NJIT and to UMBC though, so their net might be
Yeah.
the best. They probably also have the toughest schedule
But they
remaining.
have the toughest schedule because the 2 key opponents, like you said, they're on the road. So that's gonna be certainly a litmus test for Vermont.
Yeah, and
I've s-
Vermont not pulling away from the league like we thought they would. In fact, it's just log jammed. And this is big because it's still at campus sites, so that first place finish means a lot.
I've still got my NJIT shirt in my closet, but I just did not want to wear it tonight because I didn't want to potentially be trolling our new guest here based on
Yeah,
past
how can
results.
I forget? What was it 2014-15 season? Then JIT came into Ann Arbor and upset Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their
I,
merchandise suddenly had a lot of customers in
I
Ohio and
understand.
parts of Michigan.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't
Uh,
think that would happen this year.
None of the top 3 teams playing each other this week, so if
John,
4
would you say similar
homes,
to Appalachian State beating Michigan in football? What would that similar
That
vibe?
that definitely sold a lot in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and the green parts of Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have not forgotten.
Upcoming
Anyway.
schedule for this week, not too many games to really circle. Vermont having a road trip, albeit to Maine, probably is the only road game by any of these top three teams.
Yeah.
Stalika over in the, actually, let's not quite go there yet. Over in the American, uh, our newest member of Under the Radar here. As we record this, we got overtime going on between North Texas and Rice, but
Doesn't mean
story of this
anything.
conference is Tulsa, who got a hell of a battle tonight for Florida Atlantic, but did find a way to get that road win.
Well, they managed to get 3 wins, but they tried like hell to give the game away against FAU on the road tonight. In fact, I think the Owls actually had steals on back-to-back possessions instead of just simply fouling Tulsa. But on the first time they got the steal, they had, what is it, 3 free throw attempts. They missed the first, made the second, tried to miss the third, but never got rimmed. So it was called out of bounds in favor of Tulsa. But even then, FAU stole the inbounds pass, tried to get another 3 point shot off, but that missed, and Tulsa got a big escape win tonight.
And in looking at this Tulsa profile, obviously the record is bloated. They've been very good away from home. For a while, we thought they were the only team from this league that could land inside the bubble. We decided that they probably weren't even good enough to do that. Can they do that? Is there a way? I mean, the win at South Florida would carry some weight if they were to pull it off and then win out.
The
What
winner
kind
was
of
South
luck
Remember,
would
they
Florida.
they
lost the
get?
first meeting at home to South Florida.
They did, and they had that loss at North Texas, which is hanging in the balance. I think Tulsa's a good team. I just don't think their profile, minus winning out and then winning a couple games in the conference tournament on top of that, is going to pull them all the way inside the bubble. But it might.
Well, I'll
It's
tell you
even
that.
more critical because this is their only chance at a quad one win right now, should they win at the Bulls.
Yeah, but I'll also say here that if Florida wins this game, you start looking at South Florida as I know they've got a lot of tier three losses, but they may actually have the better profile at that point in time because they
Yeah.
have the Utah State win, and at that point they would have a sweep of Tulsa.
Mhm.
It's better at the top, but keep in mind the Bulls also have 3 tier 3 losses, which is going to offset greatly what they've accomplished at the top.
Offset Stalika, but the metrics are not that far off of the bubble. They're not in the mid 60s.
But those
I'm
are
talking
metrics that
win out.
scream
I'm
12
talking win
seed,
out.
maybe a 13.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm talking a win out by South Florida to the conference title game. I think if I think there's a chance that they could be talking to a two-bit American at the end of the day, but it's
Yeah.
going to be one of these teams has to win out to get there.
Mhm.
Upcoming this week, uh, nothing.
Wow. A light
Nothing.
week this week.
There they
And
are.
yeah,
The big game is that Tulsa South Florida game on Sunday. That's
Hmm.
probably the game of the
yeah.
season so far in the conference, quite honestly.
It really is. South Florida at Wichita State is one to keep an eye on too, a week from tonight.
And UAB Tulsa, you'll throw that one in there
Yeah.
as well.
I feel like we also have some classic Conference USA matchups if you want to look at Memphis at UAB and then Charlotte going to Memphis on Sunday.
Yeah.
Too bad it's not going to affect the bubble this year.
It'll affect who gets bracketed where in the American tournament. That's
Yeah.
about it. Griggs, over in the ASUN, we flashed the standings up briefly there. As we record this, Austin P looks like they're going to be getting that home win over Lipscomb to really
Yeah.
take control of the conference at this point.
I think so. Now, Central Arkansas blew out whoever it was they were
North
playing. It was
Alabama.
North Alabama.
Hmm.
So they're one of the stories of the conference. Central Arkansas, not a lot of history, not expected to be very good, having an outstanding year, and still just a game behind P. But I think Lipscomb and Austin P are still better than Central Arkansas. And for Austin P to what should be a two-game lead, assuming they don't blow it spectacularly in the last couple minutes here. They've looked the best. I still think Lipscomb's good. But Austin Peay's looked the best. Now the other thing is this game isn't nearly as pivotal as what it would have been in previous years because the conference tournament's at a predetermined site. Last year this would have been big because it looked like we'd be playing like P would be at home all the way through.
You
On
still
the
want to
other
be the
hand,
one.
it
You still want to
was.
be the one seed and get the easier draw, though. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
you do.
Steve.
Yeah.
I should also add, Queens was in contention for the number one seed, but they had a pretty bad week. Losing at home to Central Arkansas, that was bad enough. But when you lose on the road against Bellarmine, who is not in
Awful.
contention for a top four seed, that's really going to set back Queens as far as trying to get a top seed now.
Yeah. Upcoming this week, Austin PF, that game's tonight. They're going to be hosting North Alabama and at Queens. Interesting game next Wednesday, at least.
Yeah.
Especially if Queens should be able to get a bounce back against Jacksonville and North Florida before then, being that those are two of the lower rated teams in the conference. Also throw in there this game this Saturday, Central Arkansas at Lipscomb. Big game in the battle for second place, maybe, but still a big game in the conference standings. Mike, over in the Big Sky Conference, how about Portland State? They did last Thursday suffer their sole conference loss of the season, but they bounced back, beating Montana State and Idaho State since then.
Yeah, I mean that's Portland State. That's why they're 2 games up in the standings. It's those pivotal games. If Portland State had lost, they'd be in some kind of tie for first place. But that's why they're 2 up on Montana and Montana State. So that. Wait a minute, Portland State. Oh, they lost. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Oh, they did beat Montana State, so that's good. Yeah, but that's why they're 2 up. I mean, they did lose last Thursday at home, but they bounced back, one on the road at Montana State. So it's kind of the road win exchange program here. But like I said, that's why they're up by 2 games in the standings.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Greg, I was going to say Montana is one of the stranger teams ever. They got that win over Portland State, turn around, lose the game at Sacramento State then over the weekend.
yeah.
And this is the team that still has that home loss to NAIA Montana Tech.
They're real schizophrenic, and while they can play up to a high ceiling, and they did it the other week at Portland State, they're just not consistent enough to win a conference tournament, and they're probably not consistent enough to get to the final, which if things continue to play out the way that they have, is the only time that they play Portland State. Um, Portland State has a 2 game lead, and they've just been better across the board. Their metrics, it's kind of a cavern between them and everybody else. Like when you look at the wins against Bubble, no one's really close to them. I haven't really looked at the predictive metrics; those aren't really my thing. Montana, kind of right there, actually. I'm kind of surprised by it. But the overall performance, it's been Portland State hands down, and they're pretty good. They're fun to watch.
They are. Looking at I guess the rest of the upcoming games here, you want to use some transitive properties. It's going to be Portland State. Sacramento State beat Montana, so Sacramento State might beat Portland State this weekend, right?
Yep, maybe so.
I think the wild card this week is actually going to be Idaho, who goes to Montana State and Montana. If they can pick off either one of those games, it makes Portland State's job at a number one seed that much easier. Otherwise, Idaho's just going to fall into the muck with the other 6 teams.
Sleek, let me stick with you over in the Big South Conference. High Point keeps winning games, but guess what? So does Winthrop.
Well, it's pretty much going to be these 2 teams right here. Winthrop,
Severe drop off.
Yeah.
Now, Winthrop did get a critical win at Radford, which was not easy tonight, but at least it keeps Radford away from the top and now just pretty much makes it a 2-team race in the Big South.
Yeah, for 30 they got the game-winning shot with less than 3 seconds to go. So I mean it was not easy, but you knew it wouldn't be. Radford's pretty tough to beat on the road. But I still think that while High Point is coming into the year, they had the higher talented roster. I think Winthrop's outperformed them. I actually think they're a little bit better.
Upcoming this week in the conference, let's go here. We'll start with High Point. They've got just a game at Radford, but even more importantly, and maybe we got some sound effects back for this.
We got to introduce Mike to this.
Yeah.
On Saturday, round two of our favorite under the radar rivalry, Winthrop and Longwood, the Winwood Cup.
Oh, I remember this now.
Does the sound work, guys?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Maybe we can't get sound effects without headphones. Yeah, those are the two games this week. I expect both teams to win, but Radford's had some life, so they could give High Point a battle also.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
Mike,
High Point's had some moments where they just haven't played well, albeit rarely at home.
Mike, over in the Big West Conference, another KF conference with the log jam with Hawaii and Irvine have been going back and forth, and suddenly UC Santa Barbara right there with them as well.
Yeah, just don't know the upcoming schedule, but when you have three teams that close, it's it's going to matter who plays who and where. Only half a game separate the three teams, and even in the net ratings, they're all pretty, not equal, but there's not a huge drop off among those three teams.
I don't think there's a big difference between 90 and 130 like there is between 1 and 40s, for example.
That's true.
So I
Yeah,
do
because
agree.
these
I
net
think 90
rankings,
and
that's an
130 are pretty
ordinal
close.
ranking. It's not a absolute.
Yeah. But the big game this week had been Irvine's win in overtime over Hawaii back on Thursday night.
Yeah,
Right.
and Hawaii played really well in that game, but just ran out of gas in the overtime. I still like this Hawaii. I like them both. I think both the UC Irvine and Hawaii are potentially dangerous in the round of 64, assuming one of those teams gets there. Santa Barbara just kind of stuck up, didn't they? I like them. I don't think they're as good as Hawaii or Irvine, no. And what about UC San Diego just crashing into the mountain?
Yeah, UC San Diego continues to fall apart. This week, Irvine hosting Bakersfield, then a big game Saturday at UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that's a real big one.
strong.
That's the
Why
Gouch Eater Cup. Of course it's
Yeah.
big.
The gun.
Yeah,
The gouch
that's
eater.
true.
UC San Diego at Hawaii on Saturday. Like you mentioned, UC San Diego have been so good in the non-conference, and it's been so bad since we got to conference play. Griggs, over in the CAA, how about Wilmington? They just keep going along here with their wins as well. The win over Towson last week was their only game.
Yeah.
So it's that College of Charleston team gets the nice road win at Hofstra, follows it up with a road win at Northeastern, and there they are.
Yeah. So UNC Wilmington is who I think that's the profile that's going to jump the most, especially with that big record of 19-3 overall. I actually think that since conference play has started and since Charleston has gotten healthier, that they're the team to beat in the conference. They don't have the bloated record. They kind of limped around literally and you know literally and figuratively in the out of conference straights, but they've really started to hit their stride. They're very much improved because of injuries. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to make a joke about limping around because of injuries, but it fell completely flat. Do we want to start the podcast over? That's my joke did not connect.
No, because we need to talk about another team from Long Island. Not even Hofstra. It's actually their Long Island rival, the Stony Brook Seawolves, who have quietly crept into third place themselves after a pair of road wins at Campbell and Elon, which is also one of the trickier places to win in the Coastal.
Yeah. So when you look at the way this conference is, and you look at two games separating third and 11th place, and there is, I think that right now we're reviewing the conference races, but you have UNC Wilmington on top of the standings, but you have College of Charleston playing well. You have Stony Brook, who Stalika just said, who's on a roll. You have William and Mary, that's hard to defend. You have Hofstra, who, while they've shot themselves in the foot and in the ankle and perhaps even the kneecaps, is still potentially very dangerous when they're on the top of their game. You have Towson, who's dangerous. This conference tournament, I think there's about 8 teams that can win it still.
I think you're right. And we got a hell of a look ahead, though, this week. William Mary at Wilmington tomorrow night, but then probably the game of the season in the conference coming up Monday night. I believe that is that Monday night is their national TV game night also. CBS
Yeah.
Sports Network. Wilmington at Charleston. Uh, so
Yeah.
forget about whatever ACC game is on ESPN. Watch this one.
It's a great game.
Uh, Stalika, over in CUSA,
Oh,
how about them undefeated in conference play? Liberty Flames got the road win at Middle Tennessee. Struggled tonight, but got the win at Delaware.
They struggled for about a half, but once the second half came about midway through, the Flames really started to kick into high gear because I know I was holding on to my top 10 poll as far as UTR, but once it became clear that Liberty was going to come out the winner, I'm like, we'll just go ahead and hit the send button. Now you look right below them, Sam Houston, who got off to an ice cold start themselves. They've quietly gotten hot themselves and suddenly look like a top 100 net team that's riding behind the Flames right here. They're not going to catch them as far as the regular season race, but still getting the second seed in a conference tournament setting is still going to be vital.
yeah. And when you say riding behind the Flames, quite a few car links behind the Flames. The real thing is like the battle for second place because there's one, two, three, four, five teams within a game of each other.
Uh, yeah, that San Francisco team isn't playing better. They struggled with UTEP tonight. And UTEP's not that good, but they found a way to win the game.
Yeah,
Uh, the games this week: Missouri State at Liberty, Liberty at New Mexico State on Wednesday. New Mexico couldn't win at New Mexico State, and they're
they
in the
couldn't.
public conversation. So,
And the travel in this league is brutal, and for Liberty to be running away from the conference, that is a really big accomplishment. I know it's kind of crazy to say this about a 19-3 team overall. Liberty's being undervalued, perhaps on in terms of national uh, spotlight.
yeah, they don't have the big win. They
They
don't have the
don't,
win over someone in the tournament. They only had one shot at it, and they got crushed
and they
by
got
Kansas State.
yeah, they got blown to bits, and they lost a couple games that they really should have won. Bad
Um,
Thanksgiving.
let's move on to the Horizon League next. Actually, quick score update, by the way. Austin P did hold on to that game against Lipscomb that Griggs thought that they were going to
Yeah.
lose, did not blow it. Uh, Mike, we started the season talking about Oakland. This was going to be Oakland. This season was going to be Oakland. And every
I
time we
know that.
start talking
I'm
about
in the area.
Oakland, they go do something like they did tonight and get blown out by at home. I'm sorry, on the road by Cleveland State.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's not good. And was that on Oakland's home court or
No,
It
that's not
was.
Cleveland.
Oh,
That's not
what?
Cleveland.
Okay.
yeah. But still, if you're gonna be a top team in this league, you cannot lose that kind of game. I mean, yes, it was on the road and never easy to win on the road, but you're competing with Wright State for the conference supremacy. You can't afford to drop that game. So,
And
oops.
while
Now,
right,
right, same time, Griggs, go ahead. Wright State did not do well tonight either.
no, they did lose kind of a surprising loss to Bobby Moe. And then the most frustrating thing about this game is that the video stream crashed, so you couldn't watch the end of it. It wouldn't load where I was. But Wright State, despite had they held on to win the game, they'd have essentially, for all practical purposes, a three-game lead over Oakland because they've swept Oakland so far. This is it just feels like every time a team gets on a roll, they sort of break their ankles. Wright State and Oakland both losing tonight in games that you would expect them to win. Green Bay for a minute looked really hot. They don't look hot anymore. Youngstown State, remember out of conference how in love we were with them and how good they looked. They don't look good at all now. You
But
just
they did put a beating on Fort Wayne tonight, so
yeah. I think this is just one of those leagues. If you're in first place, watch out because you're about to lose.
Well, good news for Oakland. They actually have the next 7 days off, looks like.
Yeah,
Wright State will be hosting Fort Wayne and probably the only good game there, maybe
yeah.
this week. I don't know. Uh, we could spend a little while talking about Doug Gottlieb, but he talked himself into a hole.
Yeah,
I'll save that for a final thought.
yeah.
Okay.
He's not a
Uh,
fan of Ken Palm because he's not rated high in it.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Anyways, Griggs, over in the Ivy League, uh,
Oh boy.
Yale falls
Oh,
again, this time at home to Harvard. And
Yeah, and
now Harvard's tied with them for first place.
yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from Harvard. They went on the road and they won a big game. And while the final score was 2, Harvard led for pretty much the entire way, if I recall that correctly. So it was impressive. Yale actually sort of kind of came back and almost stole it. Harvard played really well. I, I don't want to take anything away from Harvard, like I said, but I just can't help it. I just thought this Yale team was going to be so good coming into the year, and I can't really praise Harvard. I have to criticize Yale. I'm just a negative person like that. They've sort of blown it.
That might have been a tactical mistake by Harvard. I'm guessing there may be a few Yale staffers in the White House because not a coincidence. They've been threatened with $1 billion lawsuit. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, let's get back onto the court though, and it is rivalry weekend actually in the Ivy League. Everyone's playing their travel partners this week. Yale hosting Brown, the big Princeton Penn game on Saturday, Cornell Columbia, Harvard Dartmouth, and a little non-conference action Monday. Yale stepping out of conference to go to Howard. Uh, in
Interesting game.
little
And it's
non-conference game. Two of the best teams in both those their conferences too. So
Yeah, that's actually an interesting game. And they better play well to win. They're going to have to play well to win it.
I said from a perspective, it may be a little bit of a positive manipulation for Yale, provided they win it.
Yeah.
Chad, is that correct? Monday, Yale at Howard?
Yeah,
that's what
we
we
just
just said. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
uh, Salika,
Makes sense. Filling
Metro
games.
Atlantic time, where Merrimack still narrowly holding on to the lead. St. Peter's is still kind of there. They lost, but St. Peter's really an inexplicable loss over the weekend to last place Rider.
That's probably going to be well, not as big of a net gap as we saw between Oakland and IU Indy, but by the same time, Ryder was a possible Centenary Award candidate, and that probably set him back quite a bit. You
I
also
don't think
look
they
at a
can win.
team like you also look at a team like Siena, who managed to also hang on after getting a pair of wins against the Buffalo schools in Niagara and Canisius. So they'll be half a game behind, or a full game behind Merrimack for the time being.
Yeah, Siena sweeping the easiest road conference road trip to sweep in the entire country, I would submit. That Niagara Canisius trip this year, the Metro Atlantic is, those are two teams that are not good. Um, but uh, but that does put Siena right there in the mix suddenly, kind of almost out of nowhere. As Quinnipiac just continues to fade, Greg, as they lose again to Sacred Heart at home this week, and Sacred Heart really not that good of a team either.
no, and I take full responsibility. I was banging the Quinnipiac drum all season long, and that's why they're losing. Um,
Merrimack this week, a road trip, Mount St. Mary's and Rider. They really should sweep the games. Of course, we
they
know what happens
should.
instead.
Merrimack, a pretty good story, a recent transitional team, and not only in first place, but they've beaten everybody seemingly at the top of the standings. So a really much better than expected year for them.
As a program, they have won a conference tournament. They've never made the NCAA tournament, though.
Correct, yeah.
They won the NEC the year that Fairleigh Dickinson got the bid after losing to them in the title game, and then had a decent little NCAA tournament also, as I recall.
Yeah.
Uh, Other game to look at though Saturday, Siena at St. Peter's. That's the two second place teams head to head on Saturday, assuming they both get by their Thursday night games.
Oh, well,
Uh,
Siena better not overlook Iona on Thursday night, even though it's going to be a home game for them.
well, who are we up to next here? Mike, how about the MAC? Remember, whoever that first place team is, let's not talk about them. But how about that second place team there actually? The Akron Zips uh, got a battle last night at Eastern Michigan,
Yeah,
but found a way to
Eastern.
win the game. And here they are, 19-4 overall, and not bad by any means.
Yeah, right in my backyard. Yeah, they did win. Tough game at Eastern. But it's a W. But then Miami barely beat Buffalo 4-6 entering that game. Miami pulls it out. Miami is ahead in the standings and rankings, but one could argue that Akron might be the better team. And come March, it might be Akron that might be cutting down the nets in Cleveland.
I think Akron is better. I know they lost to Miami, but they lost at Miami in a really close game. This is the fact that they almost blew it against Eastern Michigan is just sort of an unfortunate fact when you're trying to argue that this team's been winning more decisively. But they have. That same Buffalo team that nearly beat Miami twice. Akron went there and blew them out, and they've beaten Tulane handily, who's tough to beat on the road. I mean, they've gone on the road and won big against teams that Miami's been struggling against. I think that they could. I think they're the best team on the court, and we'll see what happens in the conference tournament if this keeps holding serve.
Fair enough. As far as one other thing, actually, before we move on, we've been tracking. It's been up here all season. You see this line here: MAC 9, Sun Belt 4. It was opening night, opening couple day or two of the season that was round one of the MAC Sun Belt Challenge. That the MAC won 9 of the 13 games. All those games were played on MAC courts. Finally, here as we get into February, it's time for round two of the MAC Sun Belt Challenge, and that's what all these games on Saturday are. All these MAC schools are going on the road to Sun Belt schools, the big ones. Team that we will be not mentioning is at Marshall, and this Akron at Troy game is a really good game, I think.
I'm suddenly more excited for that one. Almost. I know Miami's got the storyline; they're undefeated, but Akron and Troy, that's going to be a good game.
Also, keep an eye on Kent State. This Kent State team now at 8-3 has been kind of coming on a little bit lately, and it's a team to
Yeah.
Yeah, they
might be.
did respond from a loss in the wagon wheel at Akron and also got a close win at Toledo. So they're still in the bronze medal position right now.
Uh, Griggs, we talked about Howard a little bit. We were talking about the Yale's game coming up against them, but how about over in the MEAC, where technically Maryland Eastern Shore, despite suffering their first conference loss of the season to Delaware State, is in first place. But as we record this, they are at South Carolina State getting their butts kicked.
Yeah, I don't. It's kind of hard for me to know what to make of this conference. Maryland Eastern Shore on top of it. I think that this is when they finally start to fall down a little bit. South Carolina State's good. Howard should be the best team, yet somehow they're 4-3, and one of their losses was to that Eastern Shore team.
Well, what they did to Norfolk State over the weekend, albeit at home by 28 points, I think this
Yeah,
Howard team is ready, and I think they may win this non-conference game against Yale, among other things.
yeah, they really are. They have the highest ceiling. I don't think that's debatable. I can't believe they're 4-3. I really can't. I just don't know what to make of this conference. You ask me what I think. I almost hate when you go to me for this because I don't know what to think other than that Howard should be the best team, but they're not.
Now here's the other kicker though. Assuming that result holds, Morgan State is going to be a half a game in first place. This is a team that is in the bottom 10 in the net, but could still find themselves in first place in the MEAC.
Morgan
That's remarkable.
State.
And look at South Carolina State.
Yeah, this is
Bottom
rough.
five.
If you look at the metrics, though, look at this. Howard is a 246 net team. The next best net is 315. That is
Yeah.
a huge difference. That's 60 points in the net.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, Howard is gonna find a way to run away with this conference.
I think they will. They might win out, and they might win out all the way through the conference tournament. I mean, you're right, Chad. They really did look like themselves a lot in that game against Norfolk.
I know Chad wants to give the centenary to the whole conference, but we can't do that to Howard. Not when you have a winning record against D1.
We'll see if they lose if they lose this weekend at home to South Carolina State. Greg Stalika, we might reconsider that. But let me stick with you, Stalika. Over in the Missouri Valley Conference, how about them Belmont Bruins?
Well, with Murray State starting to implode of late, that's pretty much given the Bruins cover now to take a two-game lead, and maybe one of the reasons why Griggs probably is looking at them as a potential at-large team, because now you're talking about a team that has a multiple game lead and probable first place winner. Even a team like Illinois Chicago, which had suddenly gotten hot with an 8 game winning streak, that one did get halted by I think it was Murray State. But if you're talking about the Bruins, now they've got an 8-game winning streak of their own, thanks to the 3 wins they have in the past week against Valpo, Murray, and I think Brad, or no, no,
Yeah.
Murray
I'll put
State
that
was
back
their
up here.
most recent.
They won at Valpo. That was
Yeah.
a close game last Wednesday.
And also beat Drake last night.
Yeah.
Mike, let me ask you about this Belmont profile, though. They've got a tough game at UIC coming up for their next game. They still have to go to Murray State. They still have to go to Illinois State. But if they win out and lose in the MVC tournament, do you think that there's a shot that this team gets an at-large bid?
You mean like make the finals of the MVC tournament,
Let's say, if they win out,
early
maybe
loss?
at
Definitely
least
no.
the semifinals. The semifinals are the finals, but they lose to a good team like a Murray State or an Illinois State in there or something. Yeah.
Ooh, well, they do have 3 quad 2 wins all in the row, so that helps. No quad 1 wins. That doesn't help. I'm just trying to think.
There's a
140.
chance that win at Murray or a win at Illinois State later on in the season could end up being quad 1, but it's going to be real borderline
That's
1
true.
versus 2.
I'd say if they make it to the finals, they have a slight at-large chance. And the only thing working against them is that lack of quality wins at the top. I mean, it's just but playing in the Missouri Valley Conference, how are you going to get that chance, really? I mean, to pick up a star quality win, you'll pick up some decent wins along the way, but but that non-conference strength of schedule 351, it's like, ugh. I'd say if they make it to the finals, they have a slim chance, not a great chance, but they have a chance.
Now, also keep in mind, if you lose to Illinois State or Murray State on the neutral court, that's tier 2. Anything below that is tier 3, and that's going to be fatal.
Tier 2, tier
Good
3.
point.
Yeah, here's my take on it. I have had them inside my bubble the whole time. I think it's my turn to do the bracket this week. I'll have them inside my bubble again tomorrow in all likelihood. I think they should get selected. I think 9-1 in true road games is remarkable. I think the win at Irvine was really good. The win at Northern Iowa was really good. If they win out, you're talking about winning at Illinois Chicago, who's hot, Illinois State, who's hard to beat on the road, and Murray State, who's very hard to beat on the road. They should be in. Having said that, this profile looks about what UC Irvine's looked like last year, and maybe not even as good as that. And they did not select UC Irvine.
I'll throw in there. Not only is it that bad non-conference strength, the schedule of 351. When you add in the conference strength, the schedule in there, it still is in the 300s. It's not like a power conference team that did a 350, but it suddenly has a 25th best strength of schedule because they played the SEC.
Yeah. In what's meant, you look at their 3 losses. Southern Illinois, a missed last second shot. One of the games was in overtime by 1. They're really good. I just don't think
losses.
the metrics are going. I think they're better than what the metrics indicate. I think they're clearly better than what the metrics indicate, but their schedule has let them down so much.
The resume-based metrics are okay, but the predictive metrics are horrible for Belmont.
A BPI of 100. A BPI of 100. I know the BPI is probably everybody's least favorite of all these metrics, but I think if you're a triple-digit metric anywhere, you're just not an at-large team. Period.
I think they're an at-large team.
They are at UIC in a huge game coming up on Friday. That is probably the game of the week at this conference. Northern Iowa at Murray State on Monday is another one to kind of keep half an eye on.
The game at Bradley is not going to be easy.
No. Let's jump over to the NEC.
Woohoo!
Mike, LIU is now starting to run away with this conference. Central Connecticut can't win. The LIU just swept them, so they now hold the tiebreaker over them, but they're down in 7th place at this point.
Yeah, I see 3 teams in the top 5 that means I assume the red means they're not eligible for the NCAA tournament.
That's correct. New Haven, Lemoyne, and Mercyhurst will get to play in the NEC tournament. New Haven won't get to play in any postseason at all.
So let's say if Long Island ends up being the number 1 seed, it's possible they make it to the semifinals. They could be the automatic bid anyway, just out of default. But
if Long Island wins their semifinal and the other semifinal is Lemoyne versus Mercyhurst, the conference tournament's over. The automatic bid is over.
It's happened before in
Now
this
let's
Even
be
before the
conference.
finals?
Yeah,
now let's be
yeah,
careful though, because if you were to have Long Island at the 1 seed and the Stoners in the 4 seed, let's say the Stoners upset Long Island in the semifinal, then they'd be looking at
yeah.
possibly their first NCAA tournament bid, while
Hmm.
Lemoyne and Mercyhurst are
Well, yeah,
the
because
other half.
yeah.
Yeah,
But Long Island is
basically,
not only up by 2.5 games, but they're the only team that has a net of sub 200. If you look at everybody else, it's 275 and worse.
They're
Mike,
way better
they're the
than
only
everybody
team.
else.
They're the only team with a winning record versus D1 competition in the
Oh,
entire
that's very true.
conference.
Oh,
And it's
that's
not
oh
even
yeah, that's
close.
very true. 14
They're
and
they're
8.
way better.
Sterling
Central
14 and
Connecticut looked like they might be able to keep pace, but they can't, and they haven't. It's Long Island. I think they win out.
Yeah,
They're they're good, at least when compared to the rest of the league.
they're hosting New Haven and Stonehill this week. There's not much
Yeah,
else worth. Well, every game is worth
every
watching the
game's worth
conference,
watching. Yeah,
but there's not much
Well, the
else that's kind of
Stoners, well, the
jam packed.
Stoners in Long Island, that's also a potential semifinal preview right there, especially since the NEC is campus sites for their conference tournament.
Let's jump over, Salika, over to the OVC, where UT Martin now has a two-game lead in the conference following a nice 3-0 week, including that win over Little Rock last night.
Well, the road wins against Eastern and Western are going to give them a little bit of a separation. Tennessee State, they had a bad stumbling loss at home against Tennessee Tech, so that widened the margin a little bit for UT Martin. Then you also look at SEMO and Morehead State, who could also be fighting for the 2 seed, which is a lot more critical when you look at the OVC's bracket setup.
Yeah, the OVC playing the ladder. That means whoever gets the 2 seed will buy into the semis. Whoever of these five teams battling here gets the 3 and the 4 at least gets one round to buy. And two of these teams are going to have to play 3 games.
yeah.
Sorry, play
Four
all
games.
4 games, 4 rounds worth of games if they wanted to win the bid. So there's a great battle the rest of the way here for seeding, but it's
Yeah,
looking at the moment like UT Mars should be the 1 seed.
and
Which is
if you
also why Moorhead had a chance to get a little bit of separation, but they missed that opportunity when they hosted Lindenwood and ended up losing by a single point at home.
yeah. A lot of these games have been highly competitive. It's just been kind of a fun conference to watch this year.
Probably the game of the week in the conference is Saturday. Moorhead is going to be at Tennessee Martin. If Martin wins that one, that could be the nail in the coffin for the rest of the conference here.
It very well could be. Martin is good. They did the most out of conference. They had the win at UNLV. Had a couple other really big out of conference wins as well. One at Bradley, and they've just looked better, more consistently than everybody else.
Griggs, over in the Patriot League, another conference where one team is pulling away from it, and that's this Navy team. They got a nice road win at Lafayette tonight. Beat
Yeah,
Loyola over the weekend. They're just cruising now.
they kind of are. Colgate is within 2 games. Nobody else is even close to them. We kind of thought that it was Navy with a bullet before the season started, and while some other teams have looked good at times, Navy is I they're just clearly the class of the conference. They went up to the roof and won. They just had another good week.
So you're saying Navy is the flagship this year?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They have an interesting week though. They are hosting American, then they are at a Bucknell team that's had a little bit of life at times this season. So,
At times, at other times they haven't.
but those are the games. Obviously, there are campus sites here, but Colgate really looking like the 2 seed also at the moment. So
Yeah.
it's maybe we've got the battle for the 3 and the 4 seeds. At least get those home quarterfinals between the rest of those teams there.
Hmm.
Uh, Mike, over in the SoCon, how about East Tennessee State got a nice overtime win tonight over Furman and nice win over the week over Ward to bounce back from an inexplicable home loss to Western Carolina a week ago.
Yeah, go figure. You beat the second and fourth best teams, but you lose to the eighth place team. But overall, they're they look to be the class of the conference. They're up by a full game over Wofford, and with that, that's a huge win over Wofford because that's for tie-breaking purposes. It's really like a game and a half lead. Um, but yeah, so far
Yeah.
it's East Tennessee State, with 2 big wins.
Yeah, and to beat well, I mean they fell down to second, I guess out of second place after the loss, but essentially they had back-to-back wins over a second place team, and they got that
It's just so weird. The two conference losses this year are both to
to
Western
Western
Carolina.
Carolina. And you
They,
you you really hope that they don't play like that Western Carolina doesn't get into that 8-9 game, win it, and then knock off East Tennessee State in the quarterfinals.
as the bracket is right now on the screen, they could be facing Western Carolina in the quarterfinals. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I'd be horrified if I was the Buccaneers.
yeah. And they
And
lost
even then, you'd have
stupidly.
Furman in the semis.
Yeah. And they lost stupidly in those games too. But Chad, before we move on, or are we done with that? Because there is something we absolutely have to touch on
Go
in
ahead.
this league. Um, the Citadel has a game coming up against Stanford, and guess who has the better record in conference? The Citadels won 4 out of 5. They just won their rivalry game against VMI. Now, they're nowhere near the bubble. They're still only 346 in the net. But is this the highlight of the Citadel's entire basketball history these last 2 weeks?
There are three teams that have been members of D1 since its inception, since we started Division One play. That have never made the NCAA tournament. The Citadel, along with Army and William and Mary, is one of those teams. And here they are. I
They're
don't know they're the
five.
4 seed, but they could be the 5 seed.
They're
In the conference.
500 in conference. Can they finish with a winning record in conference? It would be the biggest accomplishment that they've had in my lifetime.
Three
But
road
as
games
all
this week, though. Three road games. I don't care
Yeah.
who you're playing, it's three road games.
But as always, we always have to put an asterisk on Army because they were invited for the NCAA tournament in 1970, but turned it down because their then head coach Bob Knight thought they had a better shot at winning the NIT, especially with some team called UCLA in the NCAA tournament at the time.
Yeah,
Oh, I
East
didn't know
Tennessee,
that.
East
Yeah.
Tennessee State's at VMI hosting Chattanooga this coming up week. Those are the games involving our first place team there. Uh, Wofford, if you want to keep an eye on them, as well as the second place team at Samford hosting Western Carolina. Uh, Salika, over in the Southland Conference,
Woohoo!
and I'll tell you, it ended up being a close game at the end, but SFA was very impressive to me, and I think this is the better team than McNeese at this point.
Well, McNeese made the score a lot more respectable than what they were playing in the first half when they managed only, I think it was 17 points against the SFA. Previously, their low for a half at any point was at 28 points, and that just blew it away by double digits right there. So the regular season, again, is the Jacks to lose, but their reward is going to be the top seed on McNeese's home court. So what does it really matter?
Yeah.
That's the one bad thing. I mean, I'll throw in there. You may have an easier quarterfinal. You could get Corpus Christi instead of Nichols, or vice versa, something like that. But it is unfortunate. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
McNeese would have left this conference if they didn't get the conference tournament on their home court. So I get why it's there, but still, it's kind of a shame that
Now,
Yeah.
SFA.
where would they have gone again?
Who
I
knows?
don't know.
Like
Big East.
from a competition standpoint, it's just not really fair. But a couple other just quick shout outs on the undercard here. New Orleans on a roll, UTRGV on a roll, still pretty far down the standings, but I think they've won 5 and 6 in a row. Is that right? I mean, playing really well. And this is a talented New Orleans team.
Uh, by the way, upcoming this week on Saturday, Incarnate Word at McNeese. Highlight that one because McNeese's other conference loss was to at Incarnate Word early in the season. So, uh, if McNeese loses another conference game, that could be it for the conference race if it's
Yeah.
not over already. Uh, Griggs over in the Southwestern Athletic
Woo-hoo!
Conference, and Bethune-Cookman talking about teams on a roll here. What's their winning streak up to at this point? Six in a row.
Sit. Yeah. And a really fun story. We all know what they did the first night of the season, took Auburn in overtime and almost beat them. I think right then they had our attention. Of course, they're going to struggle with that out-of-conference schedule that they play, but since conference play started, this is a much improved SWAC, and they're running away with it. And they're the best team. If you pull up their profile again, they were right in there with Arizona for about the first media timeout, and then just could not keep up after that.
That Auburn game, though, you're right. Opening night against Auburn, we paid attention to them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Really did compete in that game, in that Dayton game too. They didn't obviously win it. The one that is a little bit of a head scratcher, the one they lost at home to Southern, that's their only conference loss. But other than that, I don't. Pine Bluff was kind of a good story. There's other good stories in this conference, but it's Cookman. They're running away from it. They're the best team.
Upcoming this week, Cookman will be hosting Prairie View and hosting Texas Southern. So they should be 10-1 by the time we do our next show.
Yeah. Just another thing, SWAC TV, a free download. Games to watch, any Mississippi Valley State home game, you're going to want to watch it. It's highly entertaining.
And you got 2 of them this week.
Yes.
Including that Alcorn State game, which is Mississippi Valley State's most winnable game left on the schedule.
Yes, and you need to watch it. I think they archive the games. Go back and watch old Mississippi Valley home games. It's incredible.
On Monday night, after you're done watching Charleston and Wilmington, switch over to Alcorn, Mississippi Valley.
Yes.
SWAC TV that is big Monday this week for me.
Yeah.
Mike, over in the Summit League, and how about another team that is really just starting to impress here? This North Dakota State team, we thought they were not even going to be the best team in the conference. We thought that was going to be St. Thomas, but here they are 9-0, picked up an overtime win at South Dakota over the weekend, and they're cruising.
Yeah, I mean it's South Dakota is nothing special this year, but still, anytime you can go on the road and pull off a win in overtime, it definitely helps. Let's see, St. Thomas, is this their first season of eligibility now? Is it?
It is, and
Yeah,
they're
so
really good too. They had a really nice win the night. You don't want to discount St. Thomas. They still
Right.
might win the league, but you can't ignore a team that's undefeated in 2 games in front of them. I just can't. I keep waiting for North Dakota State to come down the earth, and they just keep winning.
Yeah, but the North Dakota State and St. Thomas are easily the class of the league. I mean, it seems like it's like the big 2 and the little 7 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Also
others,
notable in that St. Thomas, I think as Chad was about to get to, they finally had their first home loss in their new building, and
And
a little
that
more
was
significant.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I was going to say a little more significant here in that it was not to North Dakota State, but actually to the Fighting Hawks of North Dakota, who themselves are now half a game back of the Tommies for second place.
St. Thomas had this game wrapped up. I
They
thought they
did.
had the game. It was a real late surge, the last 30 seconds that North Dakota stole it from them.
Yeah. And it's going to come down, like, this is at the Pentagon. It's a great conference tournament. It's going to come down to that. St. Thomas really just still trying to position themselves for that. It was a heartbreaking loss, but they're still pretty much standing in the same spot that they would have been otherwise. The Tommies, I didn't realize this. That loss, they had the longest home court winning streak in the nation. Is that correct?
They
Before
did.
that
They
loss?
no longer do. That
Yeah.
was the longest home court winning streak. It was over multiple buildings. As Slika mentioned, they're in a new building this year. Their first loss there. This
Now, I
coming
do
week,
want to
Bob,
make one. I want to make one correction, though. The conference tournament is in Sioux Falls, but I don't believe it's at the Pentagon. I think
It's-
there's actually a bigger arena where they typically play it.
Well, it should be. So there.
Okay, we'll get that confirmed here, but just quick
Stalik is right. I made a mistake.
as far as games to watch this week, I can't really point to much because our top 2 teams are playing the bottom 3 teams.
Yeah.
Maybe Saturday, South Dakota State game, because that's a good rivalry.
Yeah. Oh, how about Kansas City hired a new coach, Mark Turgeon, going to be coaching the Roos next year.
Next year, next
Yes.
year, yes. Griggs, over in the Sun Belt, which actually, since we already did the WAC, will be our last regular conference for the night. And, well, Troy had a bit of a slip up Maybe I should be asking a couple of slip-ups, actually. Thursday
Yeah.
at home to James Madison. Saturday, we know what happened. They lose at home to App State as well.
Um, I kind of wanted to. I didn't research this enough. It was on my list of things to look up. I watched some of that game, and I know everybody has bad nights. Troy looked abysmal in that game. This was a team that was looking like the best team in the conference,
Salika,
pretty much.
corrective. Troy was not abysmal. Appalachian was.
Oh my God! Oh no, no,
I think we need to highlight App State here because they actually had 3 wins during the past calendar week. It wasn't just at Troy, they also got a win at Southern Miss, and also you look at go back to the South Alabama was who
South
they beat
Alabama
tonight.
tonight.
Staliga is just trying to get you to cue up the music. They're a half game out of quarters.
This team beat High Point on the year already. I mean, this is, they've got a lot of bad losses too. I'll give them that, but I think App State really is those
Yeah.
3 words. I won't play it
Well,
again.
look at this. We this is just a fascinating conference. It was this case last year, and it is this year because of that ridiculous like extension ladder format that they have. But look at the difference between first and fourth. Are you starting off in the semifinals? Are you starting off a game before the quarterfinals? And one game is going to determine that difference.
Yeah, it could come down to it, especially with Troy now having come back to the pack.
Yeah, and look
The
at
rest of the
fifth
season
place
is
from
huge.
11th place. It's one game.
Of course, the biggest thing is what is the non-conference games. We already mentioned the Akron-Troy game, the Marshall-Miami-Ohio game. App State gets an easy game against Eastern Michigan, honestly, because
Yeah,
they were when these matches were set, they were way further down in the standings. So
yeah.
And I'd argue it balances out a little bit with Kent State getting what seems to be an easier game at Southern Miss. So we'll see who's going to ultimately win this conference challenge right here.
Yeah, Miami and Ohio and Marshall. I would have liked to have seen Miami get Troy as an opponent. I think we all would have liked that. Miami, Ohio, and Marshall, though, the old MAC rivals, more of a football rivalry than a basketball rivalry, but it was a basketball rivalry. And the other thing, there is a lot of, people are really getting behind this team among Miami students and alumni. There might be more Miami fans at that game than Marshall fans. It's not that long of a drive.
About
well,
three hours.
Yeah.
that completes all our regular conferences. Let's jump over to a couple mythical conferences. Checking in on the Front Range, where Wyoming won the border war over Colorado State, is now in sole possession of first place in the Front Range for this year.
Yeah, crazy.
Nobody gets higher than Wyoming.
Yeah.
Colorado State Air Force is the only Front Range game this week.
Yeah, Air Force still looking for their first front range win.
In the battle for the Old Ochre Bucket, BYU still in first place, although actually struggling in a non-conference game against Oklahoma
Yeah.
State today as we record this.
This would be their third straight loss, kind of losing their grip here in the Beehive.
I should also add for Utah Valley, their failure to pay the $1 million exit fee does not make them ineligible in the Beehive.
Good
Absolutely
point.
still eligible in the Beehive. We are not
Yeah.
throwing them out of the Beehive. No conference games in the Beehive this week. Up in the back, down in the back range, Arizona's win over Arizona State. It looks like Arizona's in real good shape to win the back range this year.
Yeah, and if they win the back range, it's an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. So if you see them in first place, they will make the tournament.
We missed this when we were doing CUSA, but the top CUSA and top back range rivalry on Saturday,
Yeah.
New Mexico State UTEP.
Yeah. That's the I-35 game, I think.
I-10,
Yeah,
right?
Right,
right.
what,
the
40,
I-10,
45,
I-10.
less than 50 miles away, the two teams,
Yep.
Las Cruces and El Paso.
I think they're 45 miles apart. That's where I got it. Yeah, they're close.
And that's actually UTEP's first game of the season, too. So, in
Yeah.
conference. New Mexico Grand Canyon, the other game comes up on Wednesday. The Lopes are not having a
That's
good
going to be a good
back
one.
range game season.
Mhm.
It's a rare
Yeah.
week where we've had multiple back range games.
Yeah.
How about the top range? Not much going on here other than a breaking non-conference story going on as we record this also with Gonzaga
Oh
down
my God.
at
I am
Portland.
seeing that score for the first time.
Oh, I've got the game on right here if you guys want. But
I think we should move to
Is that
Gonzaga
a
to the
typo?
No, that's
no, it is not.
correct.
No,
Wow.
Gonzaga should be moved to the Cascade range because that would allow for members like Portland and Portland State.
A lot of top range games this week, so we'll see what that does to the standings come next week. But let's our most mythical of all of our conferences. It is the Conference of Champions.
Yeah,
With the
Arizona
game going
winning
on
this
as we
one too.
record this, Arizona State putting the Philadelphia Scorpions there. I think that game is actually got close here. It's down to
Yeah.
5, but there's 20 seconds left. Looks like Arizona State's going to get the win over Utah. But again, Arizona, yet another conference that they're winning. That's 3 different conferences that they're
Yeah.
undefeated in right now. That's impressive.
It was also a little bit close for Cal, but they also got a non-conference win at home against Georgia Tech tonight.
Uh, there's a few games coming up this week, including Arizona State, Colorado, Washington, UCLA. That completes all that nonsense, though. Let's move on to our top 10 list. All 4 of us voted here. These are the top 10 teams. We've got a lot of honorable mentions this week to begin with. From Hawaii, UC Irvine, Illinois State, Austin Peay, Lipscomb, North Dakota State, Utah Valley, and even Kent State getting in
Kent
there.
State getting a
A
vote.
little,
Wow.
one vote for an honorable mention at least. But at number 10, Murray
Murray
State.
State cracking the poll. All right. Still in there after
Still
kind
in
of
This is
there,
better
erosion.
than Letterman's
struggling,
list.
hung
Yeah.
on. UNC Wilmington coming in at number 9, leading the CAA.
Yep.
At number 8 is that High Point team.
High
leading the
Point. They're
Big South.
underperforming, but I guess they're still pretty good. There's
McNeese coming in at
McNeese.
7. Yale coming in at 6 still.
Yep.
Still a very good team. Struggled. They
Yeah.
really need to bounce back. Stephen F. Austin, number 5 now.
They're
This is
climbing the
classic.
rankings, and rightfully so. That's a good SFA team.
Tulsa coming in number 4 out of the American. It is eligible for this. At number 3, this was a surprise. Only
Yeah, that
number 3
is surprising.
Liberty.
That's surprising. Wow.
At number 2, Akron. How about those Zips?
I like them. I don't like them quite as much as Liberty, but I like them.
Number 1 team.
The Puppets team.
Yeah.
The Belmont Bruins. Puppet, you got them up to number 1.
I actually
They
didn't vote them number 1. I had them
got
behind
there,
Liberty.
though. Let's go to final thoughts. Mike, any final thoughts on the night?
I enjoyed this session. I haven't done this in eons. I know I've done this before because I remember the Steve Winwood song, but it just as we go through the conferences, it just shows you that you don't have to be in a Power Four conference to have good basketball. There's plenty of good matchups, even in the under the radar conferences. So it just that's where it's like to me basketball is better than football because football is like if you're not in a major conference you have no chance, but in basketball you got a chance. Even if you're in a tiny conference, you have a chance.
Even if
Very
you're Maryland Eastern Shore, who did lose that game to South Carolina State, is no longer the first place in the MEAC. There will be a chance. Absolutely.
Congratulations, Morgan State. But yeah,
It's
I want to
actually
go back.
I got NC Central the first now, but Morgan State's in second. Go ahead.
So we're going to go back to Doug Gottlieb, who gave us a little bit of comic relief in the Horizon League. Now, if you've read Awful Announcing, where he was quoted as saying Ken Pom is BS, I think one of my other favorite quotes is, I would challenge that if our league gets a 14 or 15 seed, or if we win it, we're going to get a 16 seed and we'll be in Dayton. That's fine. We're way better than the other 16 seeds, he said. Everybody knows it because this league, everybody has some money, whereas in some leagues, nobody has any money. Now, of course, he also thinks that his team is just as good as Mother Miami, but that's even more laughable, to be honest with you.
So that's the metric that Ken Pom is not factoring in is how much money the team has. I didn't realize that goes in that's a factor in these metrics. We got to work on that. Greg, you want to finish off the show?
Yeah, I mean, the Ken Pom ratings misled me into thinking Miami was better than Green Bay, and that's just wrong, according to Doug Gottlieb.
Mhm.
Um, More well, a final thought and just a note, like as we do every February, we're starting to have the under the radar watch with the daily write-ups. Kind of pay attention to those because the different conferences have different storylines, not just because of conference races, but because of how they format all of the different conference tournaments. Some of them are ladders, some of them are campus sites. It's hard to keep them all straight, but it's not hard to keep them all straight because of something that Chad has done, and that's put all of the conference tournament bracket formats up there, up in the conference tournament tab. So be sure and check those out. And that just kind of uses as a roadmap, so you can see, oh, in a league like the Sun Belt, this is an incredibly, almost cataclysmically pivotal game because it could determine whether you're third or eighth.
Okay. Absolutely check those out. Check out the survival board up there. Check out the bracketology. What else should you check out?
All of it.
All of it. All right. Check
Yeah.
out all of it. But on that note, we will be back Sunday afternoon with our bracket rundown show because there
1:30.
is a big game. To use the words that we're allowed to use on the show. A
Yeah.
big game, not a, the game may not be super, but it'll be big at least.
Yeah.
You may have to
Not
eat
the
a bowl,
Puppy
a
Bowl.
bowl of popcorn while you're watching it, but I don't know. But anyhow, we'll also be back Monday night with the Hoops City Report. Next Wednesday with another Under the Radar. We have David Griggs, Mike Cha, John Stalika, I'm Chad Sherwood. These are the brand new headphones that I'm about to throw in the trash can. Talk to you again real soon.